Welcome to the Floor Academy podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Hadeen, owner of Illustrious Hardwoods in Mesa, Arizona. With me this week is Buddy Mitchell of Simply Floors in the Denver, Colorado market. And what we're going to be discussing is buying back your time. I believe a lot of contractors are going to abide by the rule of if you want it done right, do it yourself. And you're never ever going to own a business if that's the mentality you keep. You cannot run a business if you have to do everything yourself. You have to trust other people. You're going to need to find a way to hire them, train them, and sometimes, sadly, and it's not sadly because there'll be a bigger payout on the back end, you can't take all the profit out of your business. You're going to have to take that to hire someone. So we're going to talk to Buddy about how he's gone about building Simply Floors with his wife, Karen, what that's looked like, how he's built the other businesses, why he knows he needs to buy back time, why he's not always taking every single cent out of the company and going and buying, boats and four side-by-sides and four-wheelers. And, you can't have all the toys and then have this business that's going to keep funding itself as well. So that's where we're going to be going. Floor Academy is here every week to help you learn how to run a more successful business. That's what we do around here. Every Wednesday, new episodes come out. You can learn more at flooracademypod.com. And let's see, we just gave away the Behuey cutter that we were giving away with Behuey. So thanks to them for providing the 40-inch cutter to give away to the audience. What else do I have? New mastermind groups are forming, so check out flooracademypod.com/mastermind and learn there. Give me a ring, shoot me a message. There's a little link to schedule a call on that page, and I would be happy to discuss how you can join the group, get accountability, and better insights into your business by working with other contractors trying to do the same thing on a bi-weekly basis. All right. That's enough out of me. I will stop running my mouth. Buddy, who are you? What do you do? Why do you do it?
My name's Buddy Mitchell. I am I would consider myself a salesperson. I did not come into flooring as a technician, an installer. Mm-hmm. I came in as a salesperson. I knew nothing about flooring when I first started selling it. I did know how to run a business. When I was 23 or 24 years old, somewhere in there, I was working for my dad, and I am one of the youngest cousins and siblings in my sibling group. I had two cousins that were working in my dad's business that were 10, 12 years older than me. And he said to me, Buddy, they can't work for anybody. They can't work for themselves. They have to work, and you've got the talent to go on your own. And you're just going to be an employee here, and it's probably better if you just go start your own business. So at 24 years old, I started a company called Creative Deck Systems. And that was like 1994, 93, right in there.
Okay.
And I built decks for people. I would market, sell, install, bookkeeping, everything for my deck business. And it was just me and my brother. And then later he and I split, and he started his own deck business because family, Dave Ramsey says the only partnership or the only ship that doesn't sell is a partnership. Mm-hmm. And when you got brothers, each thinking they're doing more work and the other person's making as much money, he and I are still friends and everything. It's just like, hey, why don't you do your thing and I'll do my thing.
Yeah.
And so, and we had built our company up to enough where, we each were selling and installing our own jobs. So why commingle the money? Right. I mean, it's like if you and your brother were doing hardwood floors and he could sell and install his and you could sell and install yours. Why commingle it, right? Yes. I had a conversation with my dad. There was a company in Denver at the time called, I think it was either Classic Custom Decks or Custom Decks. And they were a marketing company, and their pictures and their lighting and everything on those decks were absolutely beautiful. And I built just as nice decks and did just as nice stuff. And I didn't have any, they were selling 10 million, 12 million a year in decks, and I was selling like 500,000, 700,000. And I
Okay.
was complaining to my dad one day, and he said, buddy, he said, the person with the lead wins. And the way he said it is, he who has the lead wins, right? And he said, if you're at home playing video games, and yes, there were video games in 1994. If you're at home playing video games and your competitor is sitting in the house giving a quote, they're going to win every time. You
Yep.
have to make sure that you do enough marketing, sales, and advertising to fill your schedule. And so I did that. And then I filled it and hired crews. But I never was able to get the belts off. I always talked about as a carpenter, taking the belts off and being a manager where you're
Okay.
not actually doing anything. Um, and so, because in Colorado, the deck season is in the summer. You would do all your business in the summer,
Hmm.
and then come the winter, there would be no work. And the deck business for Colorado really sucked in the sense that you would train crews all summer, get them all up, and come the fall, you didn't have enough money to keep them busy through the winter, because seriously, nobody built decks in the winter. So I
Yeah.
then went into basement finishing. A few years later, started doing that, and I did that up until 2010, and then the economy changed. And when the economy changed and shrunk hard, like really hard, um, I went bankrupt. And when I went bankrupt, because I had more overhead than I could turn off, I decided I was bad at being in business for myself. I've been doing it for 18 years as a general contractor, doing basement remodels, kitchen remodels, um, building decks, doing the work myself. And I thought, you know what? I've always been a really good salesperson. I'm going to go sell something that's easy to sell, where I don't have to worry about ordering, scheduling, doing anything. And so I went to work for a company called Carpet Direct. And within 6 months of starting for them, I was one of the top salesmen in the company. They had two contests every year, who could sell the most Stainmaster nylon in a 3-month period.
Okay.
And I won the first contest I was in the fall, and I won that. And Stainmaster and Carpet Direct put me on a private yacht in the Virgin Islands for a week, all expenses paid. And then the next spring, there was another spring contest in which, if you won that, you got a briefcase full of cash. And I won that briefcase full of cash as the top salesman in those 3 months. There might have been people that, I think there was a guy in Detroit that actually sold more carpet than me, but I sold more expensive carpet. You know what I'm
Mm.
saying?
Correct.
And so, if you sell a $10 carpet per yard carpet at the time versus a $20 a yard carpet, you got more points if you sold the 20. And I sold nice stuff. I didn't sell the junk. And it was all shop at home.
Okay.
And so when they handed me the briefcase of money, I was going to make $70,000 with that briefcase. And I looked around the room, and there was 140 men and women in that room that wanted to be me because they were making less than me. And I said, how can you work for a company? This is 2011, be the top salesman out of 150 employees and make less than 100 grand a year. If I go sell solar, if I go sell insurance, and you're the top salesperson in a company, you're going to make over 100 grand. So I quit
Yes.
when they handed me the briefcase. Now, because I had been broke and because I had a wife and kids, I didn't get up and say, thank you for this. I quit. But when they handed it to me, I didn't expect to win it. When I won it, I was like, this is bullshit. This is stupid. So I went out, and they handed me the briefcase in August, and February 1st of 2012, I quit and tried to open a flooring store. And They immediately told Shaw, Mohawk, Dreamweaver, Dixie. Well, there was no Dreamweaver, but well, there was maybe the big dealers back then, Royalty, you know, all those companies. They told them not to open me.
Mm-hmm.
Don't give him an account.
It's the good old boys
And
club. You can't get in if they don't like you.
well, they block installers and they block salespeople. They don't want underlings getting their own account.
Mm-hmm.
And so, since they wouldn't open me, um, luckily there was a guy at Dixie that was an independent rep, and he was about 73 years old, 74, right in there. He should have been retired, but just one of those guys that don't quit working. And I met him in a parking lot of a Perkins or a Denny's, and he said the only way I can open you an account is if you buy a display from me. And I had no money. I'm just
Mm-hmm.
saying, I really had no money, and having no money, he said the display was $2,000, and I was like, man, maybe I could borrow 2,000 to buy the display, right? And I said, okay, I'll buy the display. And I didn't know where I was going to get the money. And he said, okay, now I'm going to give you $1 a yard back. And this was in March of 2011 or 12. Well, no, started in 10, 12. This was probably March of 13, right? He knew I shop at home. He hands me all of his deck boards of that were in that display, all of his deck boards.
Mm-hmm.
He hands them to me and he says, put these in your truck and start selling right now. And when you get the display, we'll give you a 30-day billing on it. And you'll have to pay for it within 30 days. And I committed, yeah, I'll buy the display. He gave me the deck boards. He gave me an account app to, go home and fill out the app. And as I was about ready to leave, he said, I just want you to know I'm going to give you $1 a yard for every yard of carpet you sell. But these displays are back ordered and you'll get it in September or October. Right?
Thanks.
Which was,
appreciate it.
And then he just kind of chuckled, right? He wanted me to commit before he gave me the display. And when I committed, then he basically knew that if I was what I said I was,
Mm-hmm.
I'd sell 2,000 yards of carpet in 6 months.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And I did. But on that application, it said, what buying group are you part of? And I had, I'm going to tell you, I was in flooring. I had no idea what a buying group was. I never even heard of Carpet One, right? I mean,
Okay.
I've been selling carpet, but I'd been very sheltered. And so I got in my car, and it was about a 30-minute drive home because I met him down by his house. And as I was driving home, I figured out what a buying group in my head was. I Googled it and joined a buying group, FCA Network out of Chicago. And I called her within a month. I went to Chicago, met with Olga Robertson of FCA, and I came home with accounts with Shaw, Mohawk, Dixie, all of them. When she said give him an account, it overruled the stores in Denver,
Mm-hmm.
right? And my wife and I started, and we started Simply Floors. And our first year sales, we did about $750,000-$800,000, and that was because I had built up my accounts, right? Carpet Direct's model was, and I believe still is, they don't advertise at all. They don't do any advertising. It's all word of mouth.
Okay.
And as a guy that's in business, I thought, okay, if I'm going to go out and get, the person wanting floors, what does my marketing strategy have to be to get in front of those people? And so I just immediately said, every time I finished a basement, I needed 1,000 square feet of floors. Finish 1,000 square foot of basement, I needed carpet. So I started going after small remodel contractors. I started going after guys remodeling kitchens, guys doing hardwood finishing of floors, right? Because I only sold carpet, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you were in my town, I'd call you up and say, hey, if you ever run into anybody that asks you, should I put in carpet or hardwood first? I'm going to redo all the carpet and the hardwood in the house.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to put in sand and finish hardwood, and you don't sell carpet. Hey, we're a good referral because I have people say that to me, hey, I'm going to get the hardwood floors refinished. And I would ask them, well, who you doing having do that? Oh, we're still interviewing people.
Yep.
And then I could say, oh, call Kyle. He's great at it. You should, his company's great. And if you do the same for me, then we would get referrals from each other. Right.
Yep. Correct.
And that's how I built my base. And so at Carpet Direct, they didn't have you do anything my customer would never talk to the people at Carpet Direct. It was all through me. So since I had 10 or 15 small remodel contractors, basement finishers, kitchen designers, real estate agents referring me that I'd went after that I figured might be able to give me multiple referrals, I had built it up to about 700,000 a year in sales. And so we started, and I said marketing is important, right? And the thing of it is, it was this way. You talk about buying back time. If I'd go out and prospect really hard, I'd then get a bunch of sales. And then when I was processing those sales as a salesperson and managing the crews, I wouldn't prospect as much. Mm-hmm. And then my sales would go down. And then it would give me time to go out and prospect and bring in referrals. And then my sales would go down. You know what I'm saying? It was a cycle because guys would go out of business and they'd quit referring you, or they'd forget about you or whatever. And so there was this cycle that I hated. And so I decided to start taking money out of my pocket so I didn't have to prospect. And I took 10% off the top. I said, okay, we're going to sell 750,000. I went from making a 10% commission to making 30%. And so instead of making 70,000 a year, I immediately went to 210. Well, for me, it was almost immediately, right? It was like an immediate raise. And I just took $75,000 and put it into advertising, right? And then that bought the fact that I didn't have to prospect as much. And then next thing I know, the next year we're doing 1.5 million. And I tell the story. It was a Friday in the summer. Kids had gotten out of school. I got up at 7 o'clock in the morning. I had an appointment at 8, 10, noon, 2, 4, 6. That's how many appointments I had to run that day.
That ain't going to work.
Go out and sell. And my wife was doing all the ordering and kind of managing the crews a little bit and scheduling jobs and all that and doing the books. And I got up at about 7, took a shower, came downstairs, and my wife was in her pajamas. Okay. And she walked into her office, which was our sunroom, sat down. And when and my daughter came down and got a bowl of cereal and sat in front of the TV. And I know they did stuff during the day, but just the perception I had as I got home at 8 o'clock that night, my wife was still in her pajamas, which was true. Honest to God, she was still in her pajamas, working in the sunroom, and my daughter was sitting in front of the TV watching TV at 8 o'clock at night. And I said to her, we're hiring people. And she's like, well, how are we going to pay him? And I was like, I don't care, but you're not working like that anymore. I don't. And she's like, oh, and I was like, you're not doing that anymore. You're, we'll just take money out of what we're making and we'll grow the business. And so I've been that way. I've been doing that. And, our best year ever was, right at 8 million. And that was last year, so we've been growing and, we're hoping to do our goal this year is 9 million, and we should, if my marketing figures out the changes that have happened since the economy went down,
yes,
and some of the strategy I've put into place, we'll get back there, because you always, when the economy changes, you get less leads cost more, things like that. And we've had, and we're constantly turning people over and, trying to hire better people, but you have to take money out of your pocket. Every time we've grown, we've made less money for a year. So,
but okay, so that's an amazing thing, right? And that's kind of what I was talking about in the intro. Is I think there's a lot of business owners and just employees in general suffer from lifestyle inflation, right? So you go get a raise and you go from making $50,000 to $60,000 a year, you get that extra $10,000 and you're like, well, now I can afford the vacation, right? So you're not making anything extra to do anything with because you spent it somewhere else. And you're sitting here saying, I'm taking 10% off the top of everything right away. One, to market my company and be able to generate leads while I'm sleeping, while I'm out prospecting, while I'm doing all these other activities. I'm still able to get leads coming in. And then you're also saying, stop taking every penny out and go invest it in somebody else. And while you may not make money for a year, the following year, you probably double it back up because that person's trained and up and running and operational. And now they're generating you not only their salary, but X amount on top of it. And you probably have, I would guess you have some kind of a system figured out or formula for like every time I add this type of employee, it's going to generate me X amount of return.
I don't know about return, but it's going to generate something, right? I'm going on spring break next week with my daughter. It's the last year of spring break. She's 18. She's going to college. You know what I'm saying? College kids don't want to go on spring break with their dad. Really, senior in high schools probably don't want to go on spring break with their dad and mom, right? And so my wife and I are going on spring break next week. And I went to Mexico with my wife 2 weeks ago for a week. And we literally did not take our computer. I had 2 text messages with people that I didn't have to have. But during the week in Mexico, I didn't have to do anything. I had people back running my company, right? Now, did they do everything exactly the way I wanted them to? No, but they did 90%. And so you said something, if you want it done right, do it yourself. And that's true. I believe that. And I still have that tendency, and so does my wife. But let me just say this. Let me tell you the change that changed our company, the instant that changed our company. My wife, I'd hired her someone to order. And then we hired her someone to schedule. So she could do the books. She had an order desk person. So we hired what we called 10 to 2 moms, right? We looked for women that wanted to work when they dropped off their kids at school and quit before their kids got off school so they could be there for their family, right?
Yep.
And maybe work 3-4 days a week. And so we said, okay, our company is only busy enough for someone to work part-time doing orders. Orders are going to take you 3 or 4 hours a day,
yep.
Right? And so we hired a lady, her Jennifer, and she starts ordering. And then we hired another person, and she started scheduling. So we had someone ordering and scheduling. And so as we're doing that, I decided to hire a guy. And I hired this guy to sell for me. And he was a pretty good, decent dude, interviewed great. He came to work for me, and a month later, his wife was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, and she died within 3 or 4 months of that.
Oh.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Which he went to pot. Which I understand. I mean, it just was like, wow. And so I'm desperate. I'm running 30 appointments, 25, 30 appointments a week. And I'm having people call me and say, hey, how come you didn't get me a quote last week? You came out, and I remember them, but I just didn't have enough time. So I sat down and I told my wife, I need to hire one salesperson to take over the quotes that this guy was supposed to take. Right, because we'd gotten busy enough for to take some off my plate, and I put an ad on Craigslist because Indeed wasn't very popular back in 2015, 16, right in there, and so I put an ad on Craigslist. I had 2 women apply for the job. And so I scheduled, because I didn't want them to come. You tell a lady, hey, come to my house and do a job interview. It's kind of creepy, right? So I said, hey, let's meet at a Starbucks, because we do shop at home flooring. And, I was trying to sell the idea of shop at home flooring to sell to people. And I didn't care if it was a lady, guy, whatever.
Correct.
So I get there, I sit down, And up walks this lady. Her name was Megan. She was about 25, 26 years old. She had been working for a property management carpet company. I think, I'll just say it. It was Arbor Carpet, as an assistant to one of the salespeople. And she comes walking up, and she knew carpet, she knew fiber, she knew everything, right? And she was bubbly, nice. And I offered her the job, and she took it. And so she was going to start the next week. And I got up to leave, and I realized that Amy, this girl named Amy, was supposed to come in like 10 minutes. I had an appointment with an interview with her. And so I sat back down, waited. Amy comes walking up. She sits down and blows my socks off. In a degree in interior design, she had all these things that I was looking for. You know what I'm saying? One of the things I was looking for is before I hired as salespeople, I thought, I'm going to have to be a sales manager. So there was a guy named Dave Romano, and he was working with the National Association of Flooring Companies or whatever that I had met. And he was putting on seminars for, I don't know, what was it called, Karen? Benchmark. No, not Benchmark, but what was the name of the organization? It's at Surfaces every year.
The Floor Covering Association.
No, Floor Covering Association. They got the big thing at Surfaces every year.
WFCA, World Floor Covering Association, right?
Yeah, they had these seminars that they were putting all over the country, and he was doing them, right? And he had one on being a sales manager. So I had flown to Seattle, Washington, sat down and went to his seminar, and he said, how many sales? And there's all these guys with 10, 12 employees, 5, 6, 7, 8 salespeople. He looked at me and said, how many salespeople do you have? I said, I don't have any. He's like, what? Why are you here? And I said, because I'm going to hire him, and I want to be a good sales manager when I hire him. Mm-hmm. Right? This was because I planned on growing. And so I went to that seminar, and so he liked me enough because he thought that was cool, right? And he owned a recruiting company and probably wanted me to pay him to recruit salespeople. But he invited me to dinner that night. And so he and I, there's like 10 or 12 people there, but he and I went to dinner. And we're sitting there talking, and he says to me, he said, he tried to sell me on hiring him as a recruiter. I just said, I'll just tell you, my wife's so frugal, she ain't going to hire a recruiter, right? We're not going to pay a recruiter to get us a salesperson. And he said, let me give you advice. Hire waitresses or waiters at high-end restaurants. They can sell a $250 bottle of wine if they work at like the highest end steakhouse in town.
Yep.
Amy worked at a place called Elway's here in town. We're in Denver. John Elway, he owns a restaurant. Yes. She was a waitress at that. That's one of the nicest restaurants. If people want to go on if rich people want to go to a nice dinner, they go to Elway's. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. Yep.
So
yep.
Amy had all that. Hire Amy. Get in my car. Call my wife. I said, I just hired 2 sales staff. And she's like, we don't have enough leads for 2 sales staff. And I said, well, I guess my job is to get more leads and train them. And so my thought was 80% of me, because I can do everything right?
Generally speaking, yes. That's at least we believe
80% of me times 2 is 160. That was the thought that went through my head, right? 80% of me is 160. We'll sell more jobs because I've got 2 people doing what I do. Then we started looking at our business that way. And so, people will tell you, if you want to start your own business, listen to Dave Ramsey's Entree Leadership. Listen to Traction by Gino Wickman, right?
Yes.
Listen to these books. And they'll all tell you that you've got to let go, right? You've got to let go. You can't do everything yourself. I called this, so my wife and I, we're doing pretty well. We buy a house in South Carolina, a vacation home, to as a retirement, investment, right? And I need a bug company to come kill bugs. And I call this company, and this guy answers. And he took my advice, by the way. He answers, and it's Veterans Pest Control in South Carolina, right? And he answers, and I say, oh. And he and I have a nice conversation about starting up our services. Have him come kill the bugs every quarter.
Okay.
And you know, because I'm an entrepreneur and I probably should be a business coach. Do you know what I'm saying? Even though I thought I have to succeed before you be a coach, and now I see all these coaches that I don't think have ever succeeded at anything, and it's kind of like, you know, right? But I always thought you had to be really successful to be a business coach, at least a good one, right? Know what it's like.
Yes.
And so I started talking to this guy, and I was like, "So you're just starting out?" And he's like, "No, we've been open 3 or 4 years." I said, "So why are you answering the phone?" He says, "I don't have anybody that can answer the phone as good as me."
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "Oh, so you're worth $15 an hour?" And he said, "What?" And I said, "That's what you can pay someone just as good at answering the phone and probably better than you.
Yes.
You find the right person. I can find a 22-year-old talkative girl that I can teach how to talk on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, you can find that. They can answer the phone. They can answer questions. And you know what? If they don't know the answer to a technical thing, they can say, you know what? I don't know the answer to that. And you got to hire someone that's got the guts to say, I don't know the answer to that. But you know what? Kyle's an expert, and I'll get Kyle to call you and answer those technical questions that I don't know. Would you like to schedule an appointment?"
Yes.
Right?
Yep. Perfect.
That's $15 an hour, and it frees him up to go do something else, right? So you have to look at every job, you know, you have to look at every job in your company, right? And then you need to say, okay, I'm doing 2.5 million and my average ticket is $5,000. So if I take 2.5 million divided by $5,000, or I did 2.5 million, how many jobs did I do? Right?
Okay.
I mean, that's the math that you got to do. And you got to say, okay, my average ticket is this. If I don't do what do I not do to free me up to go do what I'm really good at? Right?
Correct.
There's something in that business. So they talk about hats or seats in a company or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the basic hats in our company are sales, marketing, production, and under production you have scheduling, ordering, and subcontractor management, right?
Okay.
And then you have client relations. You know, production manager has to go out and look at the jobs that are installed, especially if the homeowner has questions, and deal with it.
Yes.
And then you have the finance division, which you have bookkeepers, data entry, you know, accounts payable, accounts receivable, chart of accounts, all those things, right? And so all of those are the jobs, if you're a single person, that you do all of those. So if you're a one-man show, two-man show, you might divide, okay, you do 5 of these projects. And so, and at $1 million in sales, $700,000 in sales, you're doing it all yourself.
Correct.
But you say, okay, I want to go from 700,000 to 1.5 million. What will I not be able to do? And then I tell you, look at what you're worst at. Because I don't care who you are. One of those jobs you suck at.
Guaranteed.
One of those jobs you hate doing. One of those jobs you are unbelievably talented at. Right? And you find the position that you suck at. And you hire someone that's really good at it. Right? And then guess what? You have to pay that person. And guess what? You're going to make less money. But then, you know, strap it on, dude. Because guess what? If you don't want to make less money, you got to figure out a way to sell more jobs. Now, for me, the hard part was the thing that I was the best at, the thing that I loved doing was sales.
Okay.
I loved that. I got up in the morning. I loved going to people's houses, getting them excited about putting in a new floor. I loved the idea of helping them find the right product. And I was best at it, but I realized if I wanted to grow the business, I had to give that away, because then I could focus on cold calling on businesses, figuring out marketing, bringing in more leads, right? Because it wasn't for me hiring 2 sales staff. I had to pay them a commission. Boom, there goes 10% off the top, right? You know, because an average salesperson makes about 10% of the, 10%, right? So, you know, selling, 2 million, there goes 200,000, right? Now 2 million, we're making $600,000, but we have overhead that we're paying out of that, obviously.
Correct.
You know,
Correct.
So now I'm going to make $200,000 less dollars in my pocket when those salespeople are up and running. So I have to then say, okay, I'm going to grow the business so I can make that 200,000 again, right? And I didn't see it for at least 2 years. It took me 2 years to grow my business. Where if I would have stuck at that $2 million range and working 80 hours a week and not known my kids and not went on vacations and not done stuff, I would have had 400,000 more dollars in my bank account. But then the government would come in and take 40% of it, right?
Correct.
And so that's one of the things you're really only giving up about 70% of whatever that money is, because that extra money you make, they tax it at the highest tax bracket, right?
Yes.
So you're only losing $67,000, not $100,000 if you hire a $100,000 employee, right? Because you're going to pay that to the government, and I hate doing that. So, and that's how we grow our business.
Okay,
and we made less money.
Well, I mean, you did, but I don't think overall you are. So we're gonna jump right back in. I need to interrupt us for a minute, and we got a quick word from Johns Manville. Not all foam boards have the high performance that Go Board does. Johns Manville has been producing rigid foam boards for decades for commercial roofs. What does this mean for flooring and shower applications if they aren't exposed to the same harsh elements? What does this mean for flooring and shower applications if they aren't exposed to the same harsh elements that a roof is? If it's good enough for a commercial roof, it's even better for your flooring, countertop, or shower project, especially at a reasonable price. Visit www.jm.com/GoBoard for more information. And if you're looking for a powerful and convenient solution to streamline your flooring estimates, look no further than our cloud-based virtual estimating software. With this innovative tool, you'll be able to create detailed and accurate estimates in real time right from the job site or your... Oh my gosh, I can't read today. Right from the job site or your office. Collaborate with your team and manage projects and access all the information you need to make informed decisions all in one place. Whether you're a seasoned professional or just starting out, the software will help you get ahead in the flooring industry. Try it today and see the difference Virtual Estimates Now can make. Check out the link in the show notes to demo the program or visit Floor Academy. Nope, that's not it. Visit estimates.flooracademypod.com. Links in the show notes. So then, and when I screw it up, you can just get there where you need to be. All right, buddy. So you're making sacrifices, and so you're technically, like you said, you've lost money. You're having to, and I like that you said 80%, right? You're expecting them to give 80% of what you give, which realistically, if the entrepreneur is giving 110% to make sure everything's perfect and awesome, which is, where a lot of contractors that are artisans are at, then 80% is probably acceptable to most clients and is going to pass without getting callbacks and all the issues that can happen when you're just doing a horrible job. So you found two people that are giving you 80% of what you would give. So now you're at 160%. You're having to pay them, which means you're making less, but you're able to then go look for these additional sales because you freed up all of your time running around prospecting that you've now decided to invest in. I'm going to handle all the marketing. I'm going to make sure that we continue to generate all these leads. And so it took you 2 years to build it up for them to stay completely busy doing what you hired them to do and make that money back that you invested in them. But now that the company has scaled, there's probably additional revenue now available that's more than what happened. What you took out. The $200,000 you lost is probably back plus more, I would assume.
Yeah, I think you've got, a lot of people have to decide what they're going to be happy with. Okay. Right? If you have guys out there right now that are making, let's just say they're making 150 to 200 grand a year, right? You've got to have a deep burning desire to go to 400 grand a year and really put in the time to get there. I listen to football players. I love football, right? Okay. And there's lots of guys that are super talented, that they don't put in the effort to get to become great. They're happy with just being on the team, making it for a few years, and then they look back at their life with regret, right?
Mm-hmm.
That they didn't work out harder or whatever. Same thing in this business. If you're happy with 150 to 200 grand a year and you've got your business there, there's I don't know if it's actually in the Bible. My dad used to tell me it was in the Bible that it said, as a man thinketh, so is he, right? And I don't know where that came from, but because I've never seen the verse. But if you're happy, okay, a lot of people say, man, if I could get to 100 grand a year, I'd be so happy, right?
Yes.
Then they get to 100 grand a year and the government comes in and takes the money and everything, and they start living at 100 grand a year, and then they're not satisfied, and then they're willing, what are you willing to do to get to 120, 140, 150, 180, and where are you going to be satisfied at? I spent a lot of my life stretching for more, and especially in the deck business and the basement business, and now in the flooring business, trying to go to the next level. I've lived with a fear, and this has been a fear that I've had for a lot of my life, that what happens to my family if something happens to me, right?
Yes.
I bought life insurance, but what happens if I get in a car wreck and can't work for 6 months? And I'm just going to ask the guys that are putting in hardwood floors tomorrow, what happens if somehow, some way, you cut your hand off, or somebody does something and you're injured?
Yes.
So I've wanted to build my companies to the point that they could function without me, right?
Yes.
So I'm part of FCA Network. I'm 50 years old now. I've been with them for 7, 8 years. I'm 53. This happened 3 or 4 years ago. I'm 49, 50, right in there. And I finally get to the point where my wife and I are making enough money that we're comfortable, really, comfortable financially. We've grown the business. We're doing well. And I look, and I have absolutely no money in savings because I went broke. And I took all the money out of my 401ks and IRAs in order to try not to go broke, right? So I was stupid. I didn't have to, but I did. I have no money in retirement. I'm 50 years old, no money in retirement. And I'm kind of like, in the back of my mind, panicked a little bit, because now you're 50. You're only 10 years away from being old, and 60, 65, ready for retirement. And I go to the 25th anniversary of starting FCA, and I get there, and it's in Puerto Vallarta, and I'm the type of guy that I go look for people I don't know to sit down with, and I like guys with gray hair. I always like older, because I can learn something from them, right? I promise you I could learn something from you, Kyle, and you look from the monitor. I'm seeing you for the first time. You look 15 years younger than me. You look 35. Maybe you're 30.
Thank you. I just turned 40.
Okay.
So I'm doing good.
40.
Thank you. Made my day.
Right. Okay. Right. I know I can learn from you, right? But I also think if you were 60, I could learn more from them, right? Especially if they're running.
I'm not offended. I want to be the stupidest person in the room, and the person with the most wisdom is probably the gray-haired man. I do not disagree with you.
So I'm at this thing, and I walk over and I sit down with these 4 men that were very wealthy, that had built flooring businesses, that were all in their 70s. Okay? And I sat down at this table, and I knew their businesses were running like a top. Do you know what I'm saying? And none of them worked. And I realized all I got to do is build my business to the point where I can retire. And go. One of them says, yeah, I show up to the showroom about 3 days a week, and everybody there tells me to get out and let them run it. You know what I'm saying?
That's perfect.
And I just go in and mess things up.
Yes.
And he said that. I just go in and mess things up. And I thought, that's where I got to get my business. So if you're a 40-year-old flooring guy, there's 2 of you, at some point, you're not going to want to get on your knees and install flooring. Your knees are going to give out. I built decks for 10 or 12 years on my knees. And right now, every time I stand up, my knees hurt. You know what I'm saying? And I'm 53 years old. And I know guys that run marathons at 53, and my knees hurt. And it's because I spent from the time I was 20 till the time I was 32, 33 on my knees. And then I started in my 30s, I started finishing basements and framing basements and doing interior trim and all the stuff with decks. Do you know what I'm saying? And
Yep.
I would take off my belts for a couple of months and then I'd put them back on when things got slow and do the work myself and all that. And when I started the flooring business, my goal was, I know this sounds horrible, I don't want to know how to install carpet.
Because it's not horrible, though. It's really not. And I don't blame you.
I know, especially hardwood floor guys, I don't want to know how to install a hardwood floor, because when times got tough, I'd immediately go do that, and it would sabotage my business. If I knew how to go install and finish a floor, I know if things got slow, I'd tell my wife, you know what, I'm going to go take 3 days and I'm going to install this floor and I'm going to make that extra money that we're paying the installer.
Yes.
And then I would spend a week not doing what I'm supposed to do, and then our company would go to pot. Because I did that my entire life.
Yes, and I get it, because I am like Floor Academy's a business, and I have the installation business, and they're actually distractions to each other. So all the time that I put into Floor Academy gets robbed from Illustrious Hardwoods, and anything that I'm putting into Illustrious Hardwoods gets robbed from Floor Academy. And so it's this kind of, what direction do I want to go? Where do I put the time? How do I build something? But in the meantime, well, I still need that floor money. So I'm just going to advertise a little bit, and then I'll go get a floor, and that pays for, I'm good for a little bit. Like if I can do one floor a month and work like 5 days, I'm golden. But I have to keep going back. And a lot of contractors suffer from this thing where you're 100% correct. They have the skill. Well, I can just get on my knees and I can go do it, and I can make all the money myself. And what you're saying is, I don't want to know, because then I can't have that temptation. I have to solve the problem another way. And it's actually a very, very beautiful thing, because they could have solved the problem another way, but it's so much easier for them once it goes back to what we're talking about, right? Like, if you want it done right, do it yourself. Or when you're trying to train somebody new, you'll shove them out of the way and say, let me just do it because it takes 5 minutes. And that's, you're pushing people out of your way because you think it's going to be easier, and it's not.
Well, let's just take me. One of our best salespeople's husband was given a larger franchise here in Denver, and she quit to help him. One of my best salespeople quit last August. I hired someone to replace that person, and they didn't work out. So now I'm coming into the season, and I'm down 2 sales staff. And I've got a couple new sales staff that I hired, but I still need 2 more, right? I need to hire 2 people to replace those 2. And it's really hard for me right now, because I see the new sales staff not selling jobs that I would sell, because they're just not, they're not giving the confidence to the customer that if that customer talked to me, would buy immediately, because I can overcome that confidence issue. When someone doesn't buy from you, they don't have confidence in you.
Yes.
Right?
Okay.
If they have confidence in you, and you have to portray that. So my new sales staff don't have the confidence. They're not portraying the confidence. And I'm thinking, if I would just run appointments, right? And yes. I told my wife, I said, I have to hire 2 salespeople, and they're going to suck, and I'm going to have to train them, and I'm going to have to get through all the problems. And we had this conversation all morning today, right? About not easily getting back on my knees and putting in the floor, which is the easiest thing for me to do. The easiest thing for me is quit trying to train people and just go sell myself, right? And I know that, there's not only money that you put into these people, there's time. I mean, you put a tremendous amount of time, and we've had some turnover lately, and the turnover, my production manager just gave notice here about a month ago, right? And he's finishing up. He and I are really good friends. He's a great guy, right? He came to work for me. He has a degree from Brown in history, right? I mean, he's a brilliant dude, right? And his dream job has always been working in politics, helping the poor,
For
advocacy for
Okay.
anything. He
Yeah.
wants to, I mean, he's just one of these guys that's his love of his life, right?
Okay.
Is like prison ministry, um, um, I was going to say refugees, people like that.
Okay.
Well, someone came to him that he's been volunteering for and said, "Hey, we got this position that pays about as much as I pay, doing that full time." And so I'm losing him, and I'm losing a couple of salespeople, and so all of a sudden now I'm scrambling trying to rebuild the team. And I sit there and think about it, and it's like, man, it really sucks to lose these really good people, right?
Yes.
Well, and the old saying goes, it's really bad to have good people and lose them. What's worse is to have bad people and keep them, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Right? You could have some shitty employees, right? And they could stay around forever. It's like, no, I want the superstars. And guess what? The superstars are going to quit and move on.
Most likely, yes.
You know,
Well, so,
I had sales staff making $160,000 a year with other dreams that have quit and moved on. You know what I'm saying? And they're young people. They're in their 20s. They're 27 years old. They're making $160,000 a year, but they've always wanted to be an architect. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
And they got a degree in architecture, and I was their job out of college, and I got them making all this money, and now they believe in themselves, and they can go get their job in architecture. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
and it's like, okay,
it sucks, but I mean, good for you, right? You're investing in people and helping them better themselves, right? You're encouraging them, you're inspiring them. So that I think
honestly,
that's what
my wife and I
businesses should
talked
do.
about that. Honestly, my wife and I talked about that, and it was like, you know what? We can provide really good jobs for people and be the boss that everybody wants, right?
Yep.
And do we do that all the time? No, we make mistakes with employees, and we make mistakes managing, but we're trying to be the best boss out there to make a fun work life balance, right? Our mission statement, we created a mission statement because Dave Ramsey and Gino Wickman told us to, and it's like to exceed our clients' expectations and to provide an extraordinary lifestyle for our staff and their families, because we want them to make good money and have fun doing it and be able to take off and go see their kid's soccer game. I don't want to be the guy that says, you know what, you can't go to your kid's soccer game, Kyle. You have to work for me today, on a Saturday. I would say, no, go. We'll figure it out. That customer can wait till you're done with soccer.
It's just,
you know what I'm saying?
Yes. No, good for you. I love it, because most people, once again, you get caught up in the business and trying to solve everyone else's needs, yet generally why you started the business was what you thought would happen was you free up time for yourself, and it doesn't happen. So I have a question for you. Yeah. You're talking about you hired these salespeople, but you really, really love sales. That's the thing you absolutely love. Why don't you pay someone to go do the marketing thing and you go do sales? Why is it that you've decided to do something that you don't absolutely love in the business, and yet we were talking earlier, and you're like, hire people to do the things you don't enjoy and suck at. And I'm not saying you suck at marketing. You clearly don't. You've built the business with it. But it sounds like you're more passionate about sales.
Because my time is limited, right? And I think me working perfectly top notch, I'll be able to sell 1.2 to 2.2 million right in there. I found very quickly that my sales staff will sell at a higher gross margin than me, because I don't let them sell at a lower gross margin. And homeowners will think that they can get a deal from the owner. You have nobody to... Why do big builders hire flooring companies to put in their floors? Why don't they just go direct to Shaw, right? I mean, like Ryland Homes. Why do they hire IRG, right? A wall of separation. I can go fix and make a customer happy, but if I screw up, I'm the owner. You know what I'm saying? If I hire you to sell something and you sell it, and you and one of our processes or procedures is wrong, and now the homeowner's upset, I can come in and say, okay, I'll take responsibility. I hired Kyle. Kyle screwed this up, but he screwed it up because I didn't train him right, and I'll fix it and we'll help you out. And then the homeowner's happy. Where if I screw it up, then they think you're just a dumb owner.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Very
I like
good.
that wall of
Yes.
separation
Okay.
between me. So it's kind of the thing like when Kyle left, Kyle, my production manager, just left. Do I hire another production manager or do I take it over for right now? Because, we're about ready to go into our super busy season. We're really busy, usually April through, August, September, right?
Yep. Yeah.
And how much, and I got to hire salespeople. So do I hire a production manager and train him? Do I hire salespeople and train them? Or do I do the production management and train the sales staff at the same time? I mean, it's all these, that's what makes business fun. And that's what makes it a game. And I just say, we're playing this game, and we're playing to win. And, I don't know if I'm going to have the right strategy or not. I could, the strategy I got right now is I got a production assistant that can take over some of Kyle's jobs. And guess what? I can take over some and I can train sales staff and get them running. And then once they're up and running, then I'll have more time to devote to production. Then I can hire a production manager or you know what I'm saying? It's like,
Yes.
you only got so much time. Your time is, if you sat down and said, how many hours a week am I going to work on the podcast and how many hours a week am I going to work on the flooring business? And you want to grow those businesses, you either hire somebody to take up some of that time that you're putting in, or it doesn't get done, or you don't work 50 hours a week. Is Kyle Hidden working 50 hours a week? Are you working 5/10s? Or are you working 6/12s? Right? At some point, there's more work. If the podcast gets going so well that it's taking enough time, you need the podcast to be profitable enough to quit the flooring business.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
Right?
That's
you need the flooring business or you could say, you know what, screw this podcast thing. I could make the flooring business so popular, so much money. I could make $500,000 a year working 50 hours a week, working 5/10s. And then I can get to the point. So my goal is to get to the point. I got 10 years to get here, to where I only need to work 1 day a week.
Okay.
And that 1 day a week is basically making sure that my business is still going to pay me my retirement. Right? Or I got to get my business so big that it's profitable. If you went to FloorCon and you went to a couple of these places, there's guys buying flooring businesses. Okay?
Yes.
Oh, whoopee-doo, I can sell my flooring business. You know what they tell you? 10 million. If your flooring business isn't doing $10 million a year or more, it ain't worth shit. Right?
I don't doubt it. It's not. You're a very small fish at that point. Even at 10 million, you're very small. But
and it's not worth shit. Your business isn't worth anything to anybody unless you can leave for a month on medical leave and it run without you.
there you go.
Right?
Yes. That's why we're here. Yes.
And that's it's either that or, all you have, if you have to do everything in what you started the business, the program with, all you have is a job. And you know what? I realized this when I quit running my basement business and went to work for Carpet Direct. If I would have went to work for Buddy Mitchell, I probably would still be working for him. If I would have went to work for a company like I'm doing, I would have went from making $90,000 a year to just selling for Simply Floors as an employee, making $180,000 a year and feeling semi-retired. Okay? In the sense that just selling and not thinking about ordering, not thinking about scheduling jobs, not thinking about getting leads, not thinking about anything. If I would have went to work for Empire and they would have just gave me 20 leads a week and I would have just sold for them for a year. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
I probably would have been making, if I went to work for Empire, I may still be there. I may be a manager, but or whoever. If someone could just give you what you're really good at and you could do that and make really good money, That's better than owning your own business, because guess what? If you're running a flooring business and you're making $150,000 a year and you're going home at night and staying up till 10 o'clock to do the books and getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning to order products so you can go do hammer nails and put a floor in, you could go install for somebody. I have installers making $140,000 a year just installing for me.
Mm-hmm.
We paid Tom. We paid a guy named Tom, like $195,000 to install for us, and he had a part-time helper. And let's say he paid that part-time helper $40,000, so he made $150,000 putting in floors for us.
And he didn't have to do. I mean, he's making what I'm making, but I'm running the entire business, and I make a little bit more than that. But it's
you can exercise your passions by training other people.
And you know what? I do get my wife just said this in the background. She's been listening to this. She said, you can exercise your passions by pouring that into other people. And I really, truly, I have two 24-year-old girls working for me right now, ladies, sorry, that are working for me right now. And one of them just got her first big check because she's worked for me long enough that her pipeline's full, and her paycheck was like, I don't know, $10,000, $12,000. And I felt so good that I got someone without a college degree. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
25 years old, that's sharp as a tack. I don't care if you go to college. You know what I'm saying?
Correct.
Sharp as a tack, works her butt off, and she got her first really big check. You know what I'm saying? And she's on, and it's in February. Right. So guess what? When she gets into the season this time, she's going to be making $12,000-$14,000 checks all summer long. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And it excites me that I've got her there, and it fills me up. It makes me happy. Right. Because she's making me money,
Yes. But it's not
better and better at it.
It's not always about the money, right? It's about, like you said, right? You can invest in people and you can feel rewarded through watching them grow. And I think a lot of people that get hung up trying to grow a business or trying to have employees miss that part of it, is that they think they're only there to do an exchange of services, right? I'm buying your time, here's your money. And that relationship isn't going to work when it's based solely on that exchange. There has to be more investment from them and more investment from you to truly have a good employee, a healthy work environment, a good culture. All these things are going to come together to build it and move it forward.
Well, let's, we can, you hear this all the time. People, if it's all about the money, you're never going to succeed. Right? Now, I love Zig Ziglar's thing, money's not that important. It's just right up there with air. Right? If you don't have right up there with oxygen. If you don't have oxygen, you're going to die. And if you don't have money, you're going to die. And it is about the money. But at the end of the day, we started really growing when we quit focusing on how much we were going to make. And that gets you, but you have to be at the point where you're paying your bills, living on a budget, right? My son just turned 19. He tells me I'm not made for college. I'm dropping out of college, right? Okay. So he drops out of college, and I say, okay, now you're grown up. And I say, you need to put together a budget and live on a budget. And I told him this, and I believe this with all my heart. There are people that are 22 years old right now making, that are never going to make more than $70,000 a year, right?
Yes.
For their whole career. They're going to turn 65, and they're going to make between $50,000 and $70,000 a year, okay? Now, with inflation, it'll be more than that, but, in today's money. And there are 22-year-olds that are going to average $250,000 a year. And the people that make $50,000 a year are going to retire, and some of them are going to retire with more money than the people making $200,000 a year.
Yes.
It's not what you make, it's what you budget. So I'm going to tell the people, if they sit down and they say, I can live on $80,000 a year right now. That's where, let's just take the owner that has just started. He's been working for other people. He's been making good money. He goes out on his own. He starts his own flooring business, right? He's built it up to a point, and he's making, let's say, $120,000 a year. sit down, go through your budget, follow Dave Ramsey's plan, follow whoever's plan you want to find, get your budget and say, this is how much I want to make. 120. And I'm going to grow my business. And anything I grow it over than that, I'm going to invest in something in my business.
There you go.
I'm going to invest it in marketing. I'm going to invest it in people. I'm going to invest it in something. I'm not going to put that money in my pocket. And I'm going to do that for the next 2 years. And then in 2 years, I'm going to reevaluate, should I give myself a raise? Right?
Okay.
And what have I grown the business? You know, that's what Karen and I have done multiple times. This is what we're making. We want to grow our business. How much are we going to grow it? And don't give ourselves a raise. Live on that money. Now, when things get hard, guess what? We might have to give ourselves a pay cut. You know what I'm saying?
I do.
Because
you're willing to
what?
do it. That's hard, but you're willing to do it, and that's amazing.
We just gave in October, we gave ourselves a pay cut because we opened a second showroom. We invested a bunch of money, and that showroom is costing us money, and it's money that we used to make that we're not making anymore because it's going into that showroom. But guess what? When that showroom starts breaking even, how far is that before it breaks even, right? How long? And then at the point, okay, now it starts making us extra money and gets us one step closer to working 1 day a week, right?
Yes.
Or gets us one step closer to hitting that $10 million mark, which then makes our company sellable. If I'm doing 12, 15 million a year, and someone comes and offers me 3 times profit, and I say, hold it, my profit is, 1 million a year. You're going to give me $3 million a year. You're going to give me $3 million in cash for a company. I'm making $1 million a year, and you're going to give me 3 or 5 million. I may look at him and say, you're out of your mind. I'm working 1 day a week, making $1 million a year, and you want to give me 5 million to walk away? Are you crazy? But on the other hand, if I'm at 15 million a year, making $1 million a year, you know what I'm saying? Which is what 10% of 15 million is 1.5 million.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So if the average flooring company in America is making 7% net profit, my company at 15 million is going to be 7% of 15 million is $800,000 a year times 5 is 4 million.
Okay.
If someone came to me and said, hey, we're going to give you $4 million for a business that you're making $850,000 a year at, right? I would say, you know what? No, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to make my company, keep it at 15 million, but just make it more profitable by simplifying the processes and, doing something, tweaking it all the time. I mean, that's where you get at some point, you quit doing, they say it, and Kyle, I've come very close to getting there, where I'm not working in the business, meaning I don't have a job other than making the business better. And that's where you're working on the business instead of in the business, right?
Yes.
And that's where you step away. You have no role in the company other than making the business run smoother. And that's what my wife and I are trying to get to the point. And that's where you go in and work 1 day a week.
That's what those guys at the table were doing.
What issues are there? How do I fix them? Right?
Yeah.
That's my dream.
Well, that's what the guys at the table were doing. I mean, that's why this podcast exists, is that's what I want to see people doing. It's really depressing for me to be in the Facebook groups and see a guy post, man, I'm hanging up my tools. It's been, 20, 30, 40 years. I'm selling everything. It's, $30,000 for the tools in the trailer. Really? 20, 30, 40 years in the business, and that you're cashing out for $30K of depreciating assets. Like, it's super depressing to me. I would love to see business owners be able to at least say, look, it does $1 million in revenue a year. I'll sell it for 300,000. Here you go, right? Because I have something in place to show that I can put, X amount of dollars into advertising. You're going to close this many leads if you follow the systems that I built, and you did it, right? So even a guy that runs 2 crews can potentially sell a business to another small guy that wants to go out on his own. There's ways to make this happen. It's not in the, you're talking about your retail store isn't worth shit if it's not doing 10 million, and you're right. The big guys aren't going to pay any attention, but would I be interested in something doing, a couple million? Maybe. There's plenty of people that want to look for that next step up or that thing, right? But most companies, I don't think, can show that when you put, $10,000 into this, it spits out $100,000 on the other side, or whatever that conversion is going to be, because there's not the systems and processes in place that you're talking about. You're saying I have
Absolutely.
to be able to step back and work on this thing and put all the, I got to keep all the plates spinning, but I'm going to go hire people to spin the plate. I don't have to run back and forth between all the poles anymore. And that's
Right,
the huge difference.
And I'll just tell you the biggest thing that my wife and I have been working on the last 3 or 4 years is and my wife's really good at it, right? And that is putting processes and procedures into place, right? And that is, okay, what do you do with the lead when it comes in, and all that. And that's kind of what all of your business owners that listen to this podcast that are in that thing is they say, okay, everything that's in your head of how you run your business has to be put on paper and has to be put in procedures. You've heard of Jason Goldberg. Maybe you've had him on the podcast. Maybe you haven't, right?
Yep. Yes.
We went to his boot camp, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he actually, a couple years ago, I don't know how long ago, he is out of the business. His business is doing $200 million a year. And when you go to his things, I love Jason, but guess what? I'm not Michael Jordan. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
He's Michael Jordan of flooring.
Yes.
Right? I mean, he's got the talent, he's got the brains, he's got everything that I don't, right? I'm not nearly as smart as that dude. But he stepped out of his business, and then he went and worked for a day or 2 or 3 in every department that he had, looked at the systems and the processes that he had going in there, went back, documented them, and then changed them to make them simpler, more efficient, whatever, and then went back and implemented those in each department, almost every job. I mean, he was telling me that he'd go in and just sit down as a new employee doing orders for his company. You know what I'm saying? Type of thing. I mean, it's like that. That's brilliant, right? And so, my problem, and I've thought about this. I'd like to get to the point where I can do this, but guess what? My wife's put processes and procedures in place. And the problem is she's like Jason Goldberg. She's too freaking smart, right? And I'm like, okay, she's got all these processes and procedures in place that a dumb person can't do, right? And so I'm the dumb person that gets to go in and say, okay, and I've got vision, right? And I may not be the smartest tool in the shed, but I got vision. I can go in there and say, okay, Karen, let's make this simpler, right? Okay. So dumber people can do, because smart people like Jason and Karen, are sometimes their process and procedures are only for really smart people. So you have to, you need to hire someone in your company that's dumb, that has vision, that can look at it and say, okay, I ain't smart enough to do that, but I can do it this way. And you got to have those dumb systems. Not that you're going to hire dumb people, but guess what? They can smart people that aren't as smart, because right?
Yes. 90
IQ, 120, 150. You don't want 150 IQ people making processes and procedures because they expect everybody to think at a 150 IQ, right?
Correct.
So,
correct. I got a story for this actually. So my buddy Trask in Astoria, Oregon, you want to make. Sadly, you have to make the systems and procedures relatable to the lowest common denominator in your business. And so they had the warehouse guy takes the dump trailers to the dump to empty them while everyone else is off doing their stuff. And he had the wrong ball on the truck. It was, a 2-inch ball instead of the 2 5/16. So that's not tight, right? One big bump and that trailer can pop loose. So what they have to do, they spray painted all the hitch on the trailer is pink or blue or green, depending on ball size. And then all of the balls are spray painted the corresponding color. So you can't put now you have to visually look. And so the pink thing has to match the pink thing, or the blue thing has to match the blue thing. And it's really dumb that this has to exist. But is it dumb? Because now we have something in place to double check it. I know everyone wants to say common sense is dead. And yes, sadly it is. But would you rather rely on pure luck of somebody having common sense, or do you want to make the job so simple that you can hire a monkey to come in and match colors? I want the monkey to be able to do it. Yeah, I can't fail.
Right. Well, you've got to, that's absolutely, I mean, my wife and I were talking about that just the other day about, we hired a person from Empire, a salesperson, right? Okay. They come to work for us and they basically immediately said, all your systems and procedures are too complicated. And so I told my wife, I said, just look at Empire. You know what Empire does? They hire salespeople, they make them go out and sell stuff, and then they have a whole team behind cleaning up the mess that the salesperson sold. What my wife has done is made my salespeople smart enough to go in and follow these procedures. And I was like, do we have to have rock stars as salespeople that are, and yes. Or we have to pay our salespeople less, and then we have to hire more back office staff to clean up the mess that the salesperson does. I mean, it's kind of one of those things. And so we built our whole system on having really smart salespeople. Okay. And we have really smart salespeople. But we have this person come in, and they just want to go out and sell and let everybody clean up behind them. And it's like, are we going to change our whole company for this one person? It's like, no. And
no.
So we have to let them go, even though they're a great salesperson. And it was like, man, it was nice because that person knew flooring, knew how to sell, knew all this stuff, right? But she didn't know what a transition was and what type of transition to put between two things that and she didn't know how to draw, and she didn't know how to do a drawing, that my carpet guys can install the carpets in the right room. We go into a house with Measure Square and my salespeople measure the floor and then put the carpet in. Now, guess what? I might, or my production manager might go in and tweak the seams to make it more efficient. Right. But they put the flooring in and, they use Measure Square, and it's like, okay, she didn't know how to do that. So I couldn't even have her run an appointment. She could run an appointment, but at Empire, they just take, length times width, 20 by 20 room. And they say, okay, add 20% waste. And they sell 240 square foot of carpet for a 20 by 20 room. They don't. And then they cut the carpet and show up to the job the next day to install it, or they send someone out to clean up the mess. Right.
Yes, correct.
And it's like, and their margins are so high or whatever that they can just throw money at it and make it work or whatever. I don't know how it worked. I just was like shocked at how little she knew, even though she was a top salesman at Empire.
And that's, correct. And that's their business model. I love that you have something in place that you were able to say, you know what, you're not a good fit here. This is our system, right? And every business is built differently, right? You can be the Empire and you can run super high margins and clean up messes, or you can be Simply Floors and have educated salespeople that are going to make the right decisions the first time and make it easier on the installers, right? That's your system. You're going to operate at a different level. And so while you may have to work harder to find the right salesperson, when you put them in the system, it's going to run very well. And so at least there's something to hold people accountable as opposed to just running around willy-nilly.
Right. And so like we created a mission statement. We created all these things and we created core values, right? Mm-hmm. And one of our core values of our that I'm really big on is teachable, right? And that's like, I, as the owner, am teachable. Kyle can teach me stuff. The old gray-haired guys in Puerto Vallarta at the convention can teach me stuff. I'll go and I'll listen to an installer and have him teach me stuff, right?
Yeah.
I want teachable people. The other thing I want is team players. Now, a team player, because I played high school and college football, and I was, I was an outside linebacker, and I had backside contain. And if I tried to go do the job of the other linebacker on the other side of the line, and they ran a play to my side, a fake, and I was in the wrong position because I was trying to cover the wrong. I had to play in my team, and the teams we played on were very successful because everybody played their position, played as a team. And so having a great salesperson that's not a team player, which was, and she said, you know what, I'm not a team player. I'm a bird that can't be caged. I like to do my own thing. And, and I'm like, okay, that sounds like a high schooler saying I'm a bird that can't be caged. Really that bothered me more than anything that she said. It's like, no, you got to play within a team. We just saw a great quarterback here in Denver play sucky, and it's because the team played bad. I don't care. You can say Russell Wilson sucked, but he didn't suck as bad as the team. Guys not catching the ball, guys running the wrong routes, whatever you want to say. It's like everybody sucked, right? Okay. And that's why our team sucks so bad. And it's like, okay, my team can suck. My job is to get the team playing together, right? And I'm not going to hire a salesperson that's great, that's not a team player. That's not looking out for my installer. That's not saying, I don't want to sell a mess that my installer is going to have to, I'll tell you, I had a salesperson go into a job, have to go outside and get a mask because the house stunk so bad of dog and pee. Came out of the house, decided to throw her shoes, go buy new shoes and throw them away because the house stunk so bad. And she didn't warn us.
Cute.
She did not warn the production staff to warn the installer how bad it was. She did not work for me after that. Because guess what? If you tell me those three things, I had to go get a mask. I threw my shoes away because they were cheap shoes and they stunk so bad after I walked out of the house because there was so much dog and cat urine and feces in the carpet. And you didn't come back and tell us that when you sold the job and didn't charge for it.
Yeah.
That's someone that's selfish that says, hey, I'm going to get my commission. And I don't give a shit that the installer is going into a toxic environment.
Yep.
Right?
No, it's not. Yeah, no, it's not. I've been in those homes and I've had to work in them, and it sucks. And if you don't, I've bid them myself, but when I started out, there was some where, I got told, hey, show up here, and into just the most disgusting mess I've ever been a part of. And that's not cool.
I've sold them, but I pay my installers more and tell them, hey, you're going to have to wear masks and gloves and, suits or whatever, because this place is disgusting.
Go get the Intel bunny suit. Yes. I'm with you. I hate to do this because I would love to continue talking with you all day, but at some point the audience gets really mad that the episodes get this long. So
yes,
I'm going to cut us off. Is there something that we didn't hit on that is like an amazing piece of advice that you would love to give anybody?
He who has the lead wins.
Okay.
You want to grow your business, you got to grow your leads first.
Nice and easy. I love it. Okay. That's going to do it for us, folks. Buddy, I appreciate your time. I truly do. Thank you for giving it up on a Sunday, let alone for me. So I love everything you had to say. I love the insights that you're giving to the audience to help them grow and be more successful in their businesses moving forward. Folks, go to flooracademypod.com, check out the shop, get a shirt, get a hoodie. It's April, so I'll pitch the fanny packs again. Fanny packs are so stylish. Get a fanny pack, walk around coverings in Orlando with it. You're going to be the coolest person there, I promise.
Virtual Estimates looks interesting to me. Is that yours or is that something else?
It is not mine. It is a company that has created the software. Michael McCallahan runs it, and he worked for like the box stores for a long time and helped them develop kind of what they got going on. And so that's where a lot of the way that this thing works, but it is pretty interesting. If you estimates.flooracademypod.com, and you can click on what you want. So it'll ask like, what kind of flooring are you wanting to put in? What kind of flooring's coming out? What's the size of the room? Do you need to deal with the baseboards? Do you have appliances to move? Like, it kind of asks you these basic questions, and then it'll spit out an estimate to you. So in order to get past being able to do one room and one specific floor covering type, you have to make an account, but it just, you put your email in, and then you can go and say like, I have a room that, carpet's coming out, and a room that wood's coming out, and a room that tile's coming out. It'll start putting it all together. And then if you actually buy into it, you can go and set the rates. So then you get into the back end of it, and you can add SKUs or take away SKUs and kind of change it. So it is. I haven't gotten it up on my website yet. I want to, because I want to give it to my clients, because everyone's question is always, well, how much? And I don't care if my rates are out there. I really don't. It doesn't matter to me. So they can go play with whatever, and it'll give them a labor estimate. What's not built into it right now is materials. So you can't get, they can't pick a Provenza or a Dreamweaver carpet or whatever they want to put in. They can't pick the SKU of the carpet or LVP they want and get the cost of the material. But you can, I know that generally my material costs on LVP are $450 to $550 a square foot, and they're going to know how many square feet they have. So you can make a little note for them, and here you go.
Yeah. I was thinking of something. So the Empire lady said all their data is on an iPad, and they go in and they punch in the stuff, and it spits out a number that they have to sell it for. And I was like, man, I'd love to have that software. And that's what I was thinking it would be similar to, is you send a salesperson out and they put in, if they could measure square and combine all that, where they draw the room, put the carpet in, put in the baseboard, and have it spit out a number of what they're tearing out. That's a program that I would buy.
It's not that, but it's being developed more and whatnot. So, I mean, it could turn into it. Right now, it gets you the labor quote, essentially, of here's what you're going to be able to do it. But because of his audience, that's all they're selling, is they're selling labor, right? It's correct, because it's for the workrooms, right? It's for the big companies that just sell labor, right? They're going to go get their material from the box store, and then you just have to go in and they sub out everything. Yeah. So
cool. Well, thank you.
Check it out. Yeah, no, thank you. I very much appreciate it. Folks, check out patreon.com/Floor Academy. Even $5 a month goes a long way in helping me to continue doing what I do. And I think that'll do it for us. We got one last word from Surfaces. I hope you all attended the International Surface event this year in Las Vegas. What a great event it was. The event was packed with wall-to-wall product. Tice has released the Tice 2023 Product and Trends Lookbook, packed with the newest products hitting the market this year, capturing a snapshot of what everyone was able to discover on site. Make sure to access the lookbook in the show notes. All right. Thank you again, buddy. I appreciate it. Everyone, we will catch you next week.